So in Cuernavaca itself, it's called the land of eternal spring. So it's about 70s year round, sometimes gets up in the 80s. I also served in an area that was up in the mountains that was perfect weather, pretty much year round. It rained. Mexico has a rainy season, but it doesn't really get cold when it rains, which is nice. Uh, there are a lot of areas of extreme heat in my mission, so you'd get up in the hundreds with 80% humidity, especially along the coast. It gets really hot in places like Acapulco. Uh, What's really fun though is when you get into the hills and the mountains, and then you get in the rainy season, you get a lot of flooding, and so it can be really scary to walk up these cobblestone streets with like a foot of water, just like a torrential flood coming down at you. And so we were always really careful when it was raining, and we were in areas with a lot of hills. But the big thing is just surviving the heat, because you're out in the heat all day, every day. And there's no such thing really as air conditioning except in the chapels. So you really appreciate it when your chapel has air conditioning. There are a lot of scorpions. I remember my second area was greeted when we walked in our apartment. We had two scorpions, one in the bathroom, one in the kitchen, and they were fairly large. And I was with a brand new greenie, and so that was an interesting experience for him. Nice wake up call. We had quite a few spiders. I only saw one tarantula during my mission, so they were fairly small but fairly dangerous as well. There was one time where we were walking through the streets and it was raining, and we actually saw an elephant beetle. And so we picked it up, and it was probably about this big, with the horn and everything. I think they're actually called rhino beetles. But that was fun. I think the most common, insect that we saw, or arachnid, I guess you'd say, is the scorpion. They're very common there in Mexico. Badgers were pretty common up in the hills, and they're not afraid to get close to humans, so they can get food. They're really fun to feed. Actually, they'll take food from you if you're not careful. We also got to see quite a few iguanas, and I saw a chameleon one time on my mission. Those are pretty amazing to see those. Iguana is actually illegal to hunt there, but people do it anyway. And so I never actually got to eat it, but I heard it tastes like chicken. Other animals, dogs are everywhere on the streets. You get very familiar, very comfortable with dogs passing you all over the place. People just totally ignore them. It's like its own little world, like the dog world and the human world, and they're combined, but you never really pay attention to the dogs in Mexico. But it's, you get used to animals just being around you all the time, whether they're dogs or geckos or other insects being in your apartment. You just live with it. I never got bit by a dog in my mission. I got nipped once, but it was so common for people to have dog bites because they're really common. But the way to avoid a dog bite is just don't be afraid of the dogs, because it sounds cliche, but they do sense if you fear them or not, and if you don't, they don't mess with you. I did have an experience where a pit bull came within inches of me, and he was snarling and growling, and I just put my hands out and I faced up to him, just total reaction, and he was was this close to me, but he didn't bite. And so just don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid of the animals there, and you'll be okay.